Violet EX might be a bad set. A bad set whenever we compare it to Scarlet EX in the terms of opening up a booster box, seeing what cards we get, sending to get graded, and trying to resell. Overall, it doesn't have a lot of things going for it right now, and that's a shame because it does have a couple Generation 1 Pokemon. It does have new Generation 9 Pokemon, but they don't have much of a impact. So it's a little bit disappointing, but not the worst set. I think if you're trying to collect these cards for yourself as a collector, not a bad set. But if you're trying to grade these cards and resell them, you're probably better off looking somewhere else. We're going to go ahead and start talking about these cards so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Starting off the list with no particular order, we're going to have Pachiriso. Its raw card is going for around $4. A PSA 10 card is going for around 30. Whenever we look at the total population of PSA 10s for this card, there's around 1,320 graded copies already out there. Now, total amount of submissions through PSA have been 1,470 copies. So, Pachiriso coming back as a PSA 10 after you submitted, you got a gem rate of 90%. But $4 raw card after a PSN 10 rating is going for around 30. Very small room for margin to make a profit. One of those cards that you were better off selling in person than online and having your shipping fees or tax killing you. Now, one of the newer Pokemon that got released in Generation 9, we got Toadscool. So Toadscool raw value is going for around $2.50. A PSA 10 version of this card is going for around $15. Now the total amount of PSA 10s already graded out there, well, there's around 1,210 copies. Total amount of cards that have already been submitted to PSA for grading have been 1,330-ish copies. So this card is coming back as a 90% gem rate, so 90% for you to get a 10 out of it. But if the dollar is only costing you $2.50, the submission fee between $15 to $20 depending on your grading company, and the card is only going for around $15, you're taking a major loss here. This is one of those cards that I wouldn't send to get graded for selling purposes at all, whether online or in person. For your collection piece, you're even better just buying it off from someone else. Until it changes, I would stay away from this card, sending and grading it, but I think this is a fantastic time to buy couple PSA 10s for this card at $15 a pop. The third card that we're going to be talking about is going to be Tarantula. Now, Tarantula is going to be one of those new Generation 9 Pokemon, and the raw value of this card is going to be around $3. The PSA 10 value is going to be around $21. Now, PSA 10 copies already out there. Well, there's around 1,017 copies out there. Total amount of cards that have already been submitted to PSA, there's around 1,408 copies. So this card is going to have the worst rate of return for a PSA 10 at a 72% gem rate. This probably has to do a lot with the light colored cards. Those cards get hit pretty hard when it comes to grading because you can see print lines, scuff marks, any kind of surface damage a lot more. So they're already more prone to that kind of problem, plus any kind of damage that the edging or the corners might suffer. It makes sense why this card has a 72% chance of coming back as a 10. So should you send this card to get graded? No, you're not going to be making much profit online or in person. If you're looking to collect, I think you're better off collecting if someone else who've already sent it graded. Now, for the third card? No, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, fourth card. Sorry. For the fourth card of the list, we're going to be talking about Skullvillain, one of the newer Pokemons too. The raw value of this card goes for around $2.75. The PSA 10 goes for around $27. Now, the total amount of PSA 10 copies out there, we got around 1,220 copies out there. Total cards that have already been submitted to PSA well, we got around 1,320 copies. So if you send this card to get graded, there's a 92% chance that it's going to come back as a 10. So $2.70, and you get back a $27 card estimate. Once again, very small margins for profit. So if you're looking to resell this card, stay away from Scoville. If you're looking to get this card added to your collection, you're probably better off buying it from someone else. And I do see this card constantly on eBay's PSA Vault for around $25. So you're better off getting it there. You might just have to pay a little bit more by the submission fee, but just get yourself a couple more cards and make it worth it. Now, honestly, I'm a little bit more surprised about this card. And the next card that I'm going to be talking about is going to be Marble Stiff. Now, the raw version of this card is going to go for around $3, while the PSA 10 card right now is valued at around $17. Whenever we're looking at the PSA 10 population, well, there's already 1,360 copies out there. Total amount of cards that have already been submitted to PSA, well, there's been around 1,480 copies. This gives you a gem rate of 91% if you send it to get graded. Now, PSA 10 value is only $17 after it's being graded. That is extremely low. And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised because if you played Scarlet or Violet, the video game, I can honestly say this is the Marble Stiff line and Arven storyline is probably one of the parts that really stands out about the game. Like, it hits you in the feelings. So I would imagine, regardless of the age, you would have a more of an emotional attachment to this Pokemon. But maybe it's just the design. Overall, $17. Yeah, stay away from this card if you're trying to sell. But if you're trying to add it to your collection at $17 for a PSA 10, maybe it's one of those cards that you add multiple copies to your collection for later on investing or reselling purposes. Now we're starting to get to the cards that kind of have a little bit more value before we hit our top fives. And we're going to be talking about one of the newer Pokemons, and it's going to be the Paradox Pokemon Iron Treads EX. Now, the raw version of this card is going for around $6, while the PSA 10 version is going for $26, which makes no sense. Whenever we're talking about the graded amount of copies out there, there's around 474 copies at a PSA 10. Total amount of cards that have already been submitted, 532. So you have an 89% chance if you have this card sending it to get graded and coming it back as a 10. Now, honestly, it should not be a $26 card. Overall, if you played, what was it, Violet? Yeah, it has to be Violet, right? And this was your Paradox Pokemon. I don't know about you guys, but this guy carried. He's a hard carry through the game. So, I mean, I like him a lot. It's one of those cards that I do want to add to my collection, but I haven't found one at a good price because there's only 474 copies out there. At $26, that is a good price, but I'm waiting for a copy to come out in eBay's PSA Vault so I can buy it. So, honestly, I don't know. This is one of my Violet cards that I would say it's undervalued and has a lot of potential. Now, going to one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, like literally favorite Pokemon of all time, we're talking about Arcanine EX. So Arcanine from Generation 1 has good value and honestly makes sense why it's kind of one of the more popular Pokemon in this set. So this card is going for around $6. The raw PSA 10 card is going for around $26. Whenever we're talking about total amount of copies in a PSA 10, well, there's around 2,832. So as you can see, a lot of people jumped in the opportunity to get this card and send it to get graded. Now, total amount of copies that have been sent to PSA for grading is around 3,020 copies. So you have a 93% chance of this card coming back as a 10. Now, honestly, I love my boy Arcanine. I'm okay that he has a crown, I really do. It's also kind of stupid than the card he has a fire crown where he could probably gone with maybe normal, I don't know, terrestrial typing. Regardless, I mean, it is what it is, but honestly, this might be one of the weaker designs because it's just Arcanine with a crown and nothing in the background. And that's a shame. So I'm hoping later on in the future, maybe he has a different kind of loving, because I do want to get a good Arcanine card, but this ain't it. So now we're going to start talking about the top 5 cards within the set. Starting off with number 5, we got Greavard. Greavard, this Pokemon's raw value card is going for around $3.50. Whenever we're looking at the PSA 10 price for this card, that's going to be around $32. Total amount of cards have already been graded the total amount of PSA 10 cards have already been sent. Well, there's around 1,640 copies out there. Whenever we're talking about all the amount of cards that have already been submitted, well, we're talking about 1,850 cards. So you have an 89% chance of sending this card and coming back as a 10. Now, overall, I think this is also a sleeper card because the art on this is very beautiful. And it's a ghost type and it's a dog. And dogs fairly do well when it comes to any kind of Pokemon game or just favoritism. So I'm expecting Graveyard to age better with the fine wine. At $32, if you're looking to resell, there's a little bit of room for profit there, but it's going to have to be done in person. Doing this online, you're not going to really see much out of it. Now, looking at the list, we have 2 cards tied for third, so we're going to go with this one. Number 4, or tied for third, we got Slowpoke. Slowpoke has the raw value going for around $8. When we're talking about the PSA 10 value of this card, well, this card is going for around $37. Total amount of copies already graded, and a PSA 10. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm struggling. Give me a second. Sorry. Total amount of PSA 10 copies already out there. We got around 3,560 copies already out there. Total amount of cards already been sent for grading for PSA. Well, there's around 3,950 copies have already been sent for grading. This means that this card has a 90% chance of coming back as a 10. At 90% chance for a Generation 1 Pokemon, that's not too bad. It's a Slowpoke card, and this is what I mean. It's not a super interesting Slowpoke card, but it's still a Generation 1 favorite, and this is going to be the second Generation 1 Pokemon that's in the top 5 of this set. So this kind of tells you how weak the set is whenever Generation 1 Pokemons have already taken the top slots. But $8 card, you send it to get graded, $37. Honestly, I think this card is looking more from a $40 to $50 price, but a lot of this has to do because of the manipulation. So a lot of people might be staying away from this card just because they might have a sour taste on their mouth. But overall, I mean, I wish they would have done a little bit more with Slowpoke. It's not a bad card by any means. I would just have to see it in person, honestly. Now, tied for third place, another Generation 1 Pokemon. So now we have 3 Generation 1 Pokemons in the top 5. We got Drowsy. So the raw version of this card is going for around $10, while the PSA 10 version of the card is going for around $37 as well. Whenever we're talking about the amount of copies that have already been sent graded and came back as a 10, we got around 3,178 copies. Total amount of copies that have already been sent to grading, well, people have already sent a total of 3,460 copies, meaning that this card has a 91% gem rate return. Now, the biggest reason why people would stay away from this card, even though it is a fantastic card, but it's not breathtaking, but it's a nice art. If it was textured, I can see it really deserving the hype that it got a couple months ago. But it's because, well, yeah, the base Violet and Scarlet EX. Oh my god, the base set for Scarlet and Violet had horrible. We already know this had absolutely horrible print quality control issues. That a card like Drowsy had like a 20 to 30% gem rate return in the English side. So a lot of people it was target. It was a prime target for manipulation, and a lot of people have a like a sour taste on this mouth. Now, personally, I do want this card. I do want this card in the collection, whether if it's an 8 or a 9 or even a 10. And I know I will get it with time, just for the sheer history that this card has. It didn't have it in the Japanese side, but it did have it in the English side. But then again, this also kind of shows you how much of a difference between the English side and the Japanese side when it comes to manipulation, how separated it is. So Japanese is kind of like a safer investment. Now, going to card number 2, and honestly, I had this card and I despised it in English. We're talking about Spidops EX. Now, the raw version of this card is going for around $7, while the PSA 10 version is going around $40. Total amount of PSA 10 cards already out there for this card, there's around 280 copies of it. Whenever the total amount of cards that have already been sent for grading, well, people have already sent a total of 320 cards. So this card has an 89% chance of coming back as a PSA 10. Overall, I thought it was very lackluster. This is not the Spide Ups that I would want to add for my collection. If you're looking to maybe resell for a little bit of profit, then there might be a play here, but you would have to pay for less than $7 per raw card. So that way you can have a better profit margin. So I'm selling for $40. If you can buy the card around $4 to $5 at a discounted price, then honestly, I can see people making a move on this card a little bit. Now, for the Spide Ops, I think the one in Team Rocket is going to be better, or is better to add for your Pokédex, but that's just my personal opinion. Now, for the top card of this set, the top Pokemon card of this set is going to be Miraidon EX. The Miraidon EX card, the raw value is going for around $35, while the PSA 10 value is going for around $64. Total amount of copies already out in a PSA 10. Well, this card already has 6,269 copies out there. Total amount of copies that have already been sent for grading, well, people have already sent a total of 6,820 copies. So you have a gem rate of 91%. So paying $35 for a raw card, sending it to get graded, to maybe sell it for $64, yeah, you can make some money here. If you rip it, you can make some money here. Better in person than online, but you can see with 6,200 copies of it, there's demand for this card. But that's what I'm talking about. Comparing Violet EX to Scarlet EX, Violet EX top cards are a little bit weaker, especially considering that you have 3 Generation 1 Pokemon and they're not that great. And the cards that I didn't include from here are going to be trainers and hyper rares. English collectors don't care for those cards. So if you're trying to sell these cards to people who collect in the United States, you're not going to have a good time. But in comparison, like the Koraidon EX on the Scarlet side does a little bit better, selling for $72 compared to the $64 of the Miraidon. But overall, I do think Violet EX is a weaker set. Personally, if you're looking to collect, I think I can see this set being more geared towards Generation 1s, just because you can get that Drowsy, that Slowpoke, that Arcanine, and maybe introduce you to some of the more basic Generation 9 Pokemon. But overall, if you're looking to make some money, nah, you're better off going for the Scarlet EX. Anyways, if you guys stayed this far, I really do appreciate it. Maybe just like the button. It will really help a lot. Also from that, I'm looking forward to keep going down the line and talking about every single Japanese set and seeing which cards are worth grading, which one have potential, which one should we stay away of, which one should we buy. Overall, I have a lot of fun making this content. So if you guys can just go ahead and press the like button, drop a comment so you guys can show me that you guys like this comment too, I would really appreciate it. I'll start from this. Have a fantastic day. Oh my God. My bad. And I'll see you